Hi guys, and welcome back to another Rommel's Love Child video. And so tankers, today we're going to have a little look at the AMX ELC Bis, the tier 5 French light tank, which you're probably seeing quite a lot of people playing at the moment, including myself, as they try and wrong button, as they try and get their way to the new wheel tanks, which I've not played yet, obviously. So it sits in at tier 5, and it used to be one of my favourite tanks. As you can see, we've got two marks of excellence there. It used to be one of my favourite tanks, and it got nerfed. It got nerfed probably because it was slightly overpowered, and by slightly overpowered, it was very definitely overpowered. It was incredibly fast, manoeuvrable, agile, good acceleration. As we can see, it's absolutely tiny, so it's hard to hit, especially when moving at full speed. Had good view range, excellent camo, and the top gun was a beast. So they nerfed it, and yeah, I understand why. However, I feel that maybe some ways they've gone a little bit too far in some aspects. I think whereas it used to be fast and nippy and agile, it now feels quite sluggish. In fact, the other day I essentially had a race with a KV-1, or it might have been a KV-1S, I can't remember, and it managed to keep pace with the acceleration on the AMX ELC Bis, which is obviously not good if you're trying to do a hit and run kind of fight. So what this tank used to be brilliant at as well was with the 90mm gun, which, as we can see, even now post nerf, it's got 120 mils of penetration with the standard ammo, 240 damage, although quite a long reload time. Not particularly accurate and a long aiming time, but you would charge in towards an enemy or ambush an enemy, smack them. 240 damage at tier 4 is a lot, especially when you consider that the total amount of hit points for the ELC Bis itself is 320, so you've almost wiped it out in one shot. And then you'd zoom off using your speed and agility, and you'd be gone before you'd be seen. Certainly been hit. Leaving the enemy tank thinking, what the fuck just happened there? And yeah, that made it slightly overpowered in the right hands. So now post nerf, let's have a little look at it. So you got a choice of 3 guns. So 75mm SA32L, the 75mm SA44L, and the 90mm D915. You've got 2 radios, which is definitely something you should be looking at upgrade as soon as possible, because the first one's only got a signal range of 300, the second one 400, and you are obviously going to be spotting for your team and giving them the location of the enemy, so being able to radio your team is important, staying in communication. The 2 engines, 150 horsepower in the first one and a 20% chance of catching fire, compared to 180 horsepower, so an extra 30 horsepower over the stock engine, and a 15% chance of catching fire. So yeah, it's better and it's useful, and it's going to make a difference to your tank, because this tank is based about speed. The tracks, you do not need the upgraded tracks to mount the rest of the equipment. You can mount the top gun, the top radio, and the top engine with the stock tracks. However, it does give you a 36 to 38 degree per second traverse, so it makes your traverse a bit faster, it makes your tank a bit easier to handle in that aspect. But let's have a look at the guns. Okay, the choice of guns that we get. Starting off with the 75mm SA32L up here on the left. So 75 caliber, just like the second gun. Rate of fire 13.3, same as the second gun. 74 penetration, 110 average damage on the armor piercing. Isn't brilliant. 91 penetration, with the APCR round, not great. 0.42 dispersion, that's pretty bad. Aiming time 2.3 seconds, and it in fact weighs more than the second gun. So as soon as you can, my first recommendation, get this second gun, it'll make your game play a lot easier. So if we have a look at the second gun and compare this now with the final gun, because this is where our choice really comes in, you can see the 75 has got a much higher rate of fire, 13.3 rounds per minute compared to 4.29. It's got those less penetration, 100 to 120. However, If you're aiming carefully and you're using, like, going for the sides or hitting the fronts of tanks, 100 penetration is more than enough on tier 5. But the massive difference is the 90mm does over twice the damage per shot. And if you have a look at the HE shells, again 320 damage, that's enough to one-shot a ELC Bis. However, although this is slightly more accurate, the aim time, 2.9 seconds, is pretty damn long, and the DPM makes it, I find, not so worthwhile. So here we got 1,467 DPM with the second gun, and 1,029 DPM with the third gun, the top gun. So you can do more damage per shot, and that is quite scary. However, the second gun has got a greater damage output. Now, if we have a look at the other stats of the tank, -5 degrees gun depression isn't a lot. You're not going to be sitting on a ridge line and depressing your gun to shoot. The hit points, 320, is not a lot, but even worse than that is your armour. 25 mils at the front. My Panzer II, has got an average penetration of 39. So you'd expect the Panzer II to be able to penetrate, tier 2 tank, be able to penetrate the frontal armour on the hull or on the turret of this ELC Bis without a problem. Not to mention the sides and the back. 10 mils on the side, actually 15 mils on the back of the hull, but the opposite on the turret, 15 mils on the side, 10 on the back. Although it's quite sloped, you're never going to bounce anything. If you're lucky, your tracks might take the shot and that will do the damage. However, if someone's quick and they double tap 3 and start firing HE into you, you are going to have a very, very bad day. As I said, it's got a good top speed, but it seems to take forever to get up there, and in fact I think 50 kilometers per hour tends to be the speed that I tend to see most of all, and I've got 100% crew, so I feel that's part of the nerf that they put in. Where it comes into its own though is its camouflage. In part due to its small size, it's got an excellent camo rating, one of the best in the game at 40.16, which means you can sit in a bush and an enemy tank will probably drive right past you without seeing you. View range at 396 is alright. Be aware I do have coated optics rather than binoculars because I'm expecting to move around in this, or certainly was when I first started playing it. Which is pretty decent, but it's not as good as, say, the Chaffee at tier 5 with 501 meter view range. So, little tips and strategies. Personally, I would go for the second gun. Depends on your playstyle. I prefer the higher average damage. It's a bit more consistent. I can fire and keep firing, and I can get myself out of trouble a bit better in that aspect, although it does lack a bit of the penetrating power and it certainly lacks the punch. Definitely recommend you put some camouflage on it. As for your commander, Sixth Sense is always brilliant, and then camouflage for your driver, 'cause it's only a 2-man crew, camouflage, and I've gone with the clutch braking to allow it to turn and to spin the tank a bit better. But you know, for the second skill you could easily go for the smooth ride or off-road driving, although its terrain resistance is very, very low anyway. Firefighting and repairs, if you get damaged and you're waiting on repairs, then you're pretty much screwed in this because, as I said, and it's been mentioned, your armour is paper and anything will go through it. I do believe this tank was developed to be parachuted into enemy territory and to work in that kind of way. So literally shoved out the back of a plane with a parachute attached to it and some protection around the sides, and paratroops into situations where it might be needed. Anyway, going to go and show you a little bit of gameplay, and I'll be back in a minute. In Province, which is perhaps my least favourite of the maps, and I hope this is recording properly. The software seems to be glitching a bit, but I think it's okay. So it's one of my least favourite maps. I did like it when it was a up to tier 3 map. It worked quite well then, but now it's just a bit corridory. You either go up this side, or you do as I do in this game and go up on the other side, and that's basically it. If you go in the middle, you die. So not the best map in that turn. Now, my idea here is I'm going to go up to the top of this hill, about this kind of area, because there's some nice bushes and I can scout off down this line. Firstly, I'm going to have a little poke at this bush, see if there's anything there, although the ELC down there is probably going to be doing that scouting. And with that T-34 dead, I figure I can push up here. So I'm going to switch to my camera view now, so the view that I actually had in game, and you can see what I'm looking at. KV-1 gets spotted by the M7, and as I go past I aim roughly in that direction and I just try and shoot a blind shot, hoping I might get him. Didn't really have a chance, but it was worth a little shot. Get spotted, and now I'm going to try and push up towards this kind of bush just ahead of me here, and before turning round and coming this way. Reason for that is because I don't want the arty to spot me. Now pull up here, see what I can see. I can't see that KV-1, spot the Excelsior. I pulled back in case I've been spotted, because 6th Sense doesn't go off straight away, and I can see that Churchill there as well. Despite the fact I'm this close, this is where the camouflage value of the ELC Bis comes into play. I can sit here and not get spotted, as long as I don't shoot. If I shoot, my camo value decreases. I'm looking to see if I can hit this Churchill on the turret, because the front of the Churchill's turret is quite weak, but he's being tracked and he's quite stationary, so I decide at this point I'm going to move around to these bushes over here. I've got Churan for company. So, try and put one in the front armour. The shot misses with the inaccuracy, does some kind of critical damage, up seems to track. Second one, he's got his side armour onto me. Goes behind the house. I can't get a shot at him. I know the Excelsior is going to be a tough cookie, the KV-1 as well. It's going to be difficult for me to penetrate. But this P-43 missed because he pulls back and the accuracy of the shot isn't great. That one goes through. Before I have a chance to fire again, he moves and gets himself to safety. But now the Excelsior is in range. Try and put one in the side of his turret, it misses somehow. But I figure I'll go and track him, and that way at least my team can do damage. Fire another one to keep him tracked. Now you'll notice that I'm not firing when I can see through the bush. I'm pulling back so the bush turns opaque. Okay, so I can't see through it. That means the bush retains its camouflage bonus when I'm shooting through it. So, see if I can track him on the back. Nope, can't do. Pull back. Churchill is blind firing through the bush. Trying to find a weak point where I can get through. Much more difficult when you can't see. See if I can... Nope. Spot the KV-1S. Can't hit him yet. But as I look forwards, I'm looking at my map and I can see he's moving. And I figure I can probably start to pick him off. First one bounces, hit him on that sloped bit on his armour. Doesn't penetrate either. That one does. Now pull back so the bush can't block my shot, but he's gone behind the house so I can't get him again. Pull forward, see if I can spot him. Nope. I can spot that P-43. So I'm not going to penetrate him at the front, so I'll try and see if I can track him, hit that track, blow it off. Panther 4H does that for me though. And then finishes him off. And here I make a little bit of a mistake. I don't wait for the bush to turn opaque, I don't pull back enough, which means I'm spotted. Managed to put one into the Excelsior and get hit by the KV-1S and pull back. I know he's a one-shot kill here, he fires and misses me, hits a Turan. I don't know if he's spotted the Turan, but he killed him. And I put one into the weak, vulnerable side armour. Churchill and Excelsior there, Matilda there. The reason why I pulled off down that way, not the tree down, was to make the arty think I've relocated. Because I don't want the arty shooting me. Arty will pen me dead easy. So again, trying to spot, trying to make use of the camouflage and the spotting range on this. Decide now though that it's probably a good idea to go and help the Panther 4H, who's doing a great job I have to say, so well played. So Lancelot. Also Lancelot V2. Then that T67 gets spotted just over there, see if I can hit him. No, he's hiding behind that rock, he's probably going to be hidden there for a while. Have a look down there, see if I can go down the cliff, decide better of it when I'm on minimal hit points. See if I can support the Panzer IV-H from this angle, but it turns out he doesn't need me. He finishes off the Churchill. So, now, I'm going to go down the hill. Sorry about that. I'm going to go down the hill, work my way around, and see what I can hit. Again, T-67 I can't hit. I'm going to head down towards where the RT I suspect is, which is probably around B9. This kind of area, in these bushes, up at the far end. Also got to be aware there's a Stug 3G that's not being spotted. I'm presuming the AMX is up there along with the T-34. So I'll go around the rock to the right. I'm going to go through these bushes is my aim. And as I go through, anything spotted, spot the Stug, probably by a proxy spot, then I spot the left. He fires and misses, he hits the rock and load up HE. Aim for the weak spot on his turret. And now I'll go for the Stug himself, so I'll fire HE, hoping I might track him. I've got auto aim on so I can concentrate on driving. The second shot is a armor piercing round that goes straight through him quite nicely. Wiggle a little bit to try and throw off any opposition. See the AMX up there, zoom in. Here's the aiming time and the fact it's inaccurate. Got to see him pull back, fire a shot, doesn't hit him. See the explosion, so I don't think I've hit him. RT did. Finished off with the Excelsior, and we can see that T-34S is back to the head as well. And battle over. So, little summary. Relatively fast, relatively agile tank, very small, great camo. Use it to spot your enemies. Don't worry too much about doing damage. Now you notice there at the beginning of the battle I barely fired many rounds, certainly not many that did damage. I waited until my teammates had taken advantage of my spotting, had wiped out a few tanks, and then you mop up afterwards. This is where the light tanks come into their own. At the end of the battle, when there's a few tanks remaining, the light tanks are speed, the mobility, their camouflage can be a real game changer. At the beginning of the game, if you go charging in, you're likely to get wiped out by concentrated fire from the enemy, and then you're useless to your rest of your team. So, 4092 WN8, 765 damage, not a bad game. I'll see if I can upload another bit of gameplay about the ELC later on. Alright, take care guys and tankers. I hope to see you soon. Remember to like and subscribe, really helps out the channel, really gives me the motivation to keep making these videos. Hope to see you soon. Any questions, please leave them. Bye bye.